Good evening, folks. Welcome along to the LWB Club Champ Pod titled Pull Hard. We are previewing the semi-finals of the Senior Hurling Championship upcoming this weekend. We'll look back on last weekend's fixtures there, which was obviously the last round of the Senior Championship. There was junior semi-finals there as well, and a few other bits and bobs. And we'll also preview the junior final, which is coming up on Friday night, as well as having a bit of a word on the intermediate semis, which we don't know the exact fixture details of yet, but and we will run through the possible permutations in the best possible fashion we can. Our coverage is in association with Cork and Precast Tanks, DB Recovery, Craig Carney Web Design, Balloons and Sweet Treats, Brendan Cabinet Furniture, and Breach Nolan Physiotherapy. We thank them for their continued support over the duration of the Carlow Hurling Championships. Stevie Bambrick is off sunning himself, so it's just myself and Joe this evening. How's things with you?
Oh, good, Kevin. Yeah, you?
Actually, not too bad. Stevie is absolutely living it up over there, and I have to say, one of the most random things I've ever seen yesterday with two worlds colliding. He was watching the All Ireland final uh, beside this gentleman who he wasn't aware who he was. I don't think. And next thing, this picture goes into a WhatsApp group, and so who is it? Only Paul Nagel, Craig Breen's co-driver, who was a good friend of the Irish Rally podcast, and it literally was like two worlds colliding. I actually couldn't believe it. I'd say it was an interesting conversation. Yeah.
One lad trying to tell one lad about motorsport, and the other lad trying to tell the other lad about hurling, huh? Jesus.
Yeah. In fairness, you know what? Like Paul would be a big Fossa man as well, and he did a big auction there recently where he got a number of big rally stars to sign one of the helmets he had, and I think as part of the proceeds, he gave a heap of money to Fossa out of that, which was great. Like, and funnily enough, having been down in around the Killarney direction last week, you wouldn't believe it. It's hard to believe. I think David Clifford was possibly the first player to play for Kerry from Fossa, and when you see where the club actually is, like it's just on the edge of the just off one of the main roundabouts in Killarney. You know, it's kind of hard to believe, and lovely setup and the whole lot. You know, just lots of little Killarney connections over the last week, I suppose. But hope Steve's having a good time over there anyway. Yeah, the factor 50. He'll be glowing next week. He's always glowing in the podcast, but he'll be especially glowing next week. From your own point of view, Joe, I have to admit, I was otherwise occupied over the duration of the weekend, so I seen feck all Carlow hurling, unfortunately. So I'm heavily dependent on you, as always. What's news is you every week is the same.
Busy man.
So talk us through it. I suppose we'll start with Rangers and St. Mullins. Rangers, I suppose, you know, or St. Mullins, maybe I should start with it. 10-4 up, I think, at half time or something like that, or heading towards half time. 115 Rangers, 15 points St. Mullins is how it finishes up. You got in for the second half, I believe. So from what you saw, weigh it up for us there.
Yeah, I was unfortunately delayed in Longford at the national or the community games rounders. So again, we made it home from McDonald's in Naas. Now I was chasing my tail, but just actually before the end of the first half, Kevin, but was following the first half on KCLR and Fairstone. They had it out live and direct. First half, big shift from St. Mullins. They were probably unlucky not to go even further, to be further ahead, I suppose, going into halftime. Dean Grennan made a great save. And that could have been a 9 or 10 point lead for them going into halftime, so it could have been a big game changer. I suppose in the first half they did a lot of damage, kind of from around the 13th minute on. From there on to the end of the half, I think they outscored Rangers maybe 7 points to 1. And they were fairly dominant at the time. Second half, I suppose one of the key changes, I think that, in my eyes anyway, that affected the game was the introduction of Felix Fitzpatrick. He came into the fray for an injury, and as a result, he had a big impact in the game. Second half started off, Rangers hit the first 2 points. St. Mullins replied with a point, so kind of steadied ship. But then I suppose one of the pivotal moments of the game, or maybe the two pivotal moments, happened, I suppose, within a few minutes of each other. Fitzpatrick broke through onto, I think it was a pass from Paul Cody, and drilled a ball to the net. Now, in fairness to Rangers, they had 2 goal chances and went for 2 goals, I suppose, in the previous couple of minutes as well. And it's a mark of a team when they're on the hunt. It's very hard to stop them, but a really well taken goal by Faker. Nothing else in his mind. I drill it past Kevin Keogh. And I suppose then the big swing in the game then was the second yellow card for St. Mullins for Todd D. O'Shea. It was 5, yeah. And he had 2 yellows again, nothing too major in either of them, but there were yellow cards, so that reduced St Mullins down to 14 men. And I suppose really from there on in, they didn't, get as much of a foothold in the game. Got another point after the goal to kind of keep things ticking over. But then St Mullins hit like for four in a row. 4 quick points from the 43rd to the 46th minute, in the space of 3 or 4 minutes, they really cut into the gap. St Mullins replied again. Then again they were living kind of on scraps, weren't able to turn much ball in their half forward line slash Rangers half back line. Got a point then around the 50th minute, but then again Rangers came back and hit them for four in the trot again, and I suppose that ultimately in the end, those kind of scoring bursts, those two scoring bursts really, where they got 4 points in 2 goals of kind of 2 or 3 minutes, really won them the game. They were probably more dominant in the second half from than St Mullins, but the sending off had a big effect in terms of manpower and so on. But yeah, a couple of things I suppose that caught my eye anyway. I suppose definitely I think I know we'll be previewing the semi-finals next, but I do think there's a couple of key players returning. It'll be interesting to see who's fit for both teams. I suppose when we preview the Rangers and Bagenstown semi-final, I did take a couple of returning players for Munster Rangers made a big difference. Like I said, I think Fitzpatrick made a big difference coming in, and I think his positioning will be key in that semi-final as well. Obviously, Kevin McDonald is back as well, so it was kind of a game that both teams got something out of, I think, in one way. St Mullins were down James Doyle and Paddy Keogh as well. So again, they weren't at full tilt, but Paul Doyle was back for them. So, but I think they'll be very heartened by what they could produce in the first half. Probably just a pity that they weren't able to see it out, given they had a kind of a 6-7 point lead at one stage,
Mm-hmm. So moving on to the second one, 16 points Ballinkillen, 14 points Bagenstown Gales. Now, just hearing through the grapevine that strong enough Ballinkillen side, and Bagenstown had a couple of returnees, and then they were able to kind of withdraw. Well, some of them probably not really that they wanted to withdraw, but others maybe that they did want to withdraw, something like that.
Yeah. Again, when we preview the semi-finals, you don't know who has knocks or who's after picking up knocks in training, because it's been a fairly attritional, few weeks on the bodies for lads, with the matches coming thick and fast.
Do you know what?
But
We'll double up near enough straight away, because I'll just give the result in the other game, which wasn't really of huge importance. Nave won 2-14. Nave Breed 9 points is how that finished up out in Fenna. So now we can kind of segue nicely already into the semi-finals by moving on from Ballinkillen and Bagenstown, if you want to double up there.
Yeah, well, I suppose, well, maybe just to give a quick run through the game. The game was very close. It was actually quite a good game of hurling. I suppose after the first game, we probably knew the semi-final shake-up, unless Bagenstown could beat us by 20 points. The semi-finals were nearly decided after the first game at the weekend. So yeah, we Bagenstown were down a couple of players. Like you mentioned, Alfie didn't start. Craig Doyle, Jamie Clark were left off. Niall Bulger, I suppose. Again, I don't know whether all these were say tactical or otherwise, but they got a good look at maybe a few other players. It was a very kind of a sloppy game. There's a lot of, while it was intense at times, there's a lot of poor hurling in it, but the conditions were very poor, very very greasy underfoot, heavy rain. At the end of the first match, between the two matches as well. Probably on the balance of play, there wasn't too many goal chances in the game. Probably on the balance of play, Ballinkillen might have just deserved to sneak it, but they only closed it out near the end, but I think both teams got something from it. I think Ballinkillen got minutes into legs that they needed, and the same maybe with Bagenstown Gales, that they maybe had a look at their panel and maybe were able to rest a couple of players as well. So I think both teams will be kind of happy with what they got out of the game,
Mm-hmm. So our semi-final pairings, let's just ramp straight into it. So on Sunday, 2:15 at Cullen Park, Munster Rangers versus Bagenstown Gales, and yet 4 o'clock, Ballinkillen versus St Mullins. So yeah, it's mad that we're down to this stage already, isn't it? It's after flying by, and that's I suppose the compact nature of the whole thing. So I don't know, as we're kind of after touching on how many of these lads will be back for Bagenstown, how many won't, and equally for Rangers, but we know Rangers' form when it comes to this particular part of the championship, and they are able to step it up more often than not when it matters. So Bangladesh for their part as well, like it's fair to say they wouldn't be the biggest fans of Rangers in Bangladesh. um, and they'll be mad up for this. They'll be absolutely mad up for it, right? And I'm sure they're relishing it. So, is there any chance of an upset here? Do you think?
I probably, I probably can't see an upset here, but I think Bagnallstown have improved an awful lot since their group game. I thought some of their hurling against in the last couple of games was quite good. Um, I think they've got a handle on maybe their best 15, or maybe the utilization of their best 18 or 20 players in terms of, maybe finding the best places for them, and so on. I think for Bagnallstown Gales to have, I suppose, to give it a right cut, they need everyone fitting well. I didn't hear whether any of the lads, like, by the way, just to say, Beanie Dial played 40 minutes, and JP Tracy went off with a leg injury, but he was playing up to then. I think he maybe scored a point as well. So if they can kind of get everyone fitting well for the weekend, I put them in with a good shout. Rangers still look very slick. They're hurling at times. Look, right in the first half, they were maybe dominated a little bit by St. Mullins, and they've had patches even against Nave Owen, say, for instance, taking the game where they've kind of been dominated. But they have that little bit of class still, to dig out games. I think key positioning for them will be important. Again, I know that they're carrying a lot of knocks. I don't know whether John Nolan will be available. For them, I think, sure. I mean, you've seen him as well, Kevin.
Mm,
Colossal, having just a colossal year at wing back, but has all the attributes, like we said before, to hurl anywhere. I don't think he'll take part in the semi final. From what I'm hearing now, again, you hear everything, but if he's out, he'll be a big, big loss to them. I think I mentioned Faker Fitzpatrick there for them. I think in the first couple of games, I know Michael Doyle was out for the year. Michael, I think, unfortunately picked up a crucial injury, but with Michael out, Faker was kind of deployed further back, maybe as a man marker against certain teams. But I think we really saw the best of them. I think we've seen the best of them with the county further out the field, maybe in the half back line or in the middle of the field. And I think even that half hour that he hurled against St. Mullins, I think showed his value further up the field. Now he was back as well. He was back sweeping. He was everywhere. But I think his positioning further up the field gives Munster Rangers a further offensive threat. The same saying that, I mentioned them already. I think the two Codys are having a fine year, and I think they'll be key men if Bagnallstown Gales are to keep their, once they keep themselves in the game, but to keep a check of things. I think that really Richard and Paul Cody are making a Rangers team that's been all over the place in terms of personnel this year, unfortunately due to injuries and so on. They're really steadying the ship and making things tick. From kind of middle of the field, center, the half forward line and so on. And Paul could literally be anywhere. But and Kevin McDonald coming back then as well. So, Bagnallstown on the flip side, look, if Beanie and JP Tracy are okay after the weekend, that gives them a kind of maybe a new midfield pairing. You have Danny Dyle going maybe wing forward was caused a little bit of hassle for us at the week Ballinkillen at the weekend. So they now have more options, and especially more forward options. Jake Dyle looks like he played the full game against us, and did well. The Paddy McDonald, Richie Whelan. So there's lots of pace and in there. I do think weather conditions might play a part as well. I think Bagnallstown Gales will like a dry day. They like a little bit of zip in the ground. They have a lot of pace inside in their forward line, and they might like a kind of a dry day, let the ball zip around and to have a go at it. Probably, like I said, I'd probably still see Mount Leinster Rangers coming out on top, but I think it'll be a lot closer than their group game.
yeah, I'd say an upset isn't as an unrealistic possibility as it might have been in previous years.
Yeah,
Um, and who knows what'll happen. I suppose just a couple of notes on that there. Like if you look at Rangers in general, and we spoke about Figur Fitzpatrick being the example of versatility. And I think back, you mentioned John Nolan going to wing back. Kevin McDonald can literally play anywhere. Like Paul Cody played all his underage hurling at centre back nearly. And I don't think he's ever played in the half back line for Rangers at senior level, which is crazy. Richard Cody started off his career for Runners Rangers as a 16-year-old corner forward from memory. And I appreciate that's probably because he was just starting off because he's always a defender by trade. But just how versatile They are. It's unbelievable. And there I say it, but if they ever needed to, maybe for a couple of years coming down the end of his career or whatever, Chris Nolan would be a frightening prospect if he went to play centre back as well. He'd be well capable of playing there. It's just unreal. Like I suppose it comes down to when you're a natural hurler like that, and you have a hurling brain, you are capable of playing anywhere.
Well,
Lads get pigeonholed too easily, I think.
yeah, I agree with you, Kevin. I think some of that comes from, you know, some of that comes from I think when they're down there hurling as well, like I was talking to some of the lads after our intermediate game, and to be telling you like that they have big numbers in training down there, so they're all used to playing to a template or to a style, if you get me,
Hmm.
and they train like that. So that there is that versatility then, because they're trained together, train with a one style, with a template, if you get me, how to play and play well. So lads can interchange as well.
Hmm.
I suppose one lad we didn't, maybe I didn't mention there now, and I think, like I said, I think he's having a good year for, again, in a kind of a strange year for them in terms of personnel, but Eddie Byrne is still there. He's still a threat. He's getting on the ball. His leadership,
Hmm.
probably, even his calmness there on the pitch the last days or two, or a couple of
Hmm.
matches and stuff. He'll have a big part to play. But um, I do think, I definitely think, and again, depending on Mount Leinster Rangers panel as well, and who they're up or down, and the same with Bagnestown. But looking at Bagnestown, if they have that full panel to give it a good cut, I do think it'll be a lot closer than the group game, and but I still probably see that little bit of maybe quality.
Hmm.
You have two good free takers, by the way, on both. Three good free takers, a couple more, four or five good free takers as well. And it could come down to it. Like Evan Keeley is really striking them really well for Mount Leinster Rangers, and as the years go on, is even chipping in a few points in games there as well from play. And I suppose you've Craig and Jake Dialed in as well for Bagenstown, and they're hitting them well as well. And if you have a kind of a 9 out of 10 free taker in a tight game, it gives you something really good in your artillery, and so that it'll be an interesting battle, but probably I'd probably just go in favour of Mount Leinster Rangers to pip Bagenstown.
Hmm. Another one in the versatility brigade. Eddie Byrne played full back for Borris Vocational School 1 year as well, I think, from
Yeah.
memory. But on the Bagnestown side of things, then just to move across from where I see it from their point of view, I found, like, even though the margin of victory for Rangers was heavy on the day we saw it, they did show certain elements of where they could ascertain a little bit of joy. And
Mhm.
there was a frightening prospect at one stage with the lads that were playing close to goal. Um, the amount of ball coming in wasn't hectic. So I think they had Styler, Richie Whelan, Andrew Kane in close to goal that day. And that's not counting Jake Dyer, who didn't play. So any of those, like three out of those four in near the goal, and the right ball going in, and it has to be the right ball going into them. Uh, there can be a little bit of joy to be got out of that. And the guys further back out the field with the pace, like Danny Dyle is a great man to get a dirty ball and drive forward and draw fouls. Jamie Clark likewise, and he can pick off points
Mhm.
also. Uh, I think this is a really interesting one. Like
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that one. I
Well,
suppose out of two games, I think that's gonna be
yeah, well,
tasty one.
and you have Jack McCullough back there, middle of the field now, where I think he heard a couple of games to start the year with Alfie out back, at centre back,
Hmm.
and having him around the middle, I think is more his home, if you get me. You know what I mean? Chipped in with a couple of
Yeah.
points to play.
Do they go
Um,
man to man, Joe? That's one question I'd have for you because I know I'd say it was near enough the first half in that game. I think Jamie Whelan was on Eddie Byrne, and like with the greatest will in the world, like if I'm putting a matchup out there, you're looking at a huge size differential. And like, do you go man to man, or do you try to keep your shape for this one if you're biting someone? Because Rangers will pull and drag you anyway, I suppose. But what
hmm.
do you do? I suppose you'll want Alfie at centre regardless, won't you?
I think so. Yeah, I think he brings so much to the middle, so much solidity, and he's a reader. You don't want him anywhere else, really. I think it was the St. Mullins game, Kevin. We were looking at it, that they went. It was in St. Mullins that went man to man as well. They
They
kind of
did,
had their
yeah,
matchups.
yeah. Sean Wall was out on Connor Keogh anyway. That was a standout, and they kept moving
Yeah,
around wherever they were going. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, but I think you mentioned one of the key things there is that versatility with
yeah.
Rangers in terms of where they can play. Literally, any of them can play in any. If it's the forward line, you can play in any of the six positions. And uh, I think I don't know. I mean, They'll probably have some matchups, but I still think, like what you said, I think Alfie needs to be at 6, and
Yeah.
probably you'll probably find Keane Dial maybe might probably go as a man marker, and that half
Yeah.
back line, he picked up Sean Murphy, he's picked up all the key men and all the key sides really a lot, for the last 2 years, and he might be maybe detailed. It's hard to know who to detail him on, I suppose, given
Mm.
the players that they have, but um, I think he'll be a man marker, maybe possibly an Eddie Byrne. You wouldn't know in terms of physicality and size and that, like he's strong. Um, but there's a lot of pace in that Rangers attack too. Like Donna Murphy picked off a few lovely points when the game opened up at the weekend as well, and he's quite pacey as well. But I suppose it will be intriguing. I think, like you said, I think Bagenstown will have their homework done
Mm.
on that, but like you said, it's just Rangers have so many kind of aces up their sleeve in terms of their players and where they can play. So it'll be a tricky one to get right. All right, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, very, very interesting one. We should mention actually the games are being streamed, I believe. I'm told off the kind of half off the record, kind of half on the record that there's a good chance they'll be streamed anyway. Possible spoiler alert, and I apologize, but yeah, I think that may be happening, which is great if it is going to go ahead.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it'll be great, yeah.
yeah, just in terms of the verdict, from my point of view, I think this is a great time for Bidensdown to cause an upset. I think there's a great opportunity for it, but then it's very hard to go against the tried and tested when it comes to this. However, like when you mention, like even though the chaps are used to winning underage and all that, for the likes of the younger lads, there generally shouldn't be pressure, but it's still a pressure situation, semi final, and while you're looking at Paul and Richie and maybe Eddie Warren and all them lads lead the way, it's a big day for those lads. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll be well able for it, mind you, but still a big game, Whereas if you look at, just say from Bindstown's point of view now, we're probably talking about we were talking about the chaps a couple of years ago and they need time and all. This is into maybe year 3 now, you know.
Mm.
Um,
But I suppose a couple of them, like you look at Jack McCullough, is still under 20, Darren Nolan, Niall Bulger,
yeah,
Sean Wall. There's a lot of youth there. I suppose like Don Murphy, Evan Keeley, Fitzpatrick on Munster Rangers side. I
yeah.
suppose there's youth on both sides, so it'll be kind
So
of
you're
who
going
settles.
Rangers. I'm
I
going to
think
go
so.
for
Yeah, I
I'm
think
going to
so.
go for I'm going to go for the upset. I'm going to go for the upset.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it'll be. I do think it'll be a lot closer. I think while Bagenstown lost against themselves the last game, I think they'll be happy enough with what they saw and maybe a little bit of versatility and maybe what they saw in some lads who maybe hadn't fired up to this. I think they'll be happy enough, and I think they'll be set for the game. I just think Rangers maybe that little bit of experience, that little bit of craft might just will get them over the line.
right, split vote on that one. Second one then at 4 o'clock now at Scullen Park. Ballinkillen versus St Mullins. We've seen this fixture a little bit at semi-final stages, haven't we? Yeah. Look, Ballinkillen. 4 wins out of 5 in the group. I wouldn't have thought that beforehand. I know I mentioned it on the podcast there last week, and that's fair play. Like considering there was no game in the group last year from memory, that's a bit of a turnaround. That's a little bit of progress. But I'm sure Larks will be saying that's not worth a shite unless there's something built upon this weekend. So while it's probably a little bit difficult for you being from the camp or whatever, let's go through the nitty gritty on this. And again, personnel wise, I don't know about either camp in terms of who they will or won't have. I just don't know for definite. So it's unfair for me to probably be given an exact outlook on where this may or may not be. Yeah, like where do we start? Where's the key matchups? Do you think, anyway, regardless, before we go into it?
Yeah, well, I suppose the first thing to do is talk about probably availability. I think it's probably no secret from our side of things. Like we probably had who we had available and fairly fit and well last weekend, and it looked like all the lads came through fairly okay. I don't think there's any secret in that and saying that. I think it was kind of when lads would look at our team and our panel from last weekend, look, it's kind of more or less where we're at. I suppose St Mullins, the big two are if I'm right in thinking, both Paddy Keogh and James Dial had honeymoons and so on. So those lads coming back in will be a big addition to the team. So that's the first thing, obviously. Having those in, and I suppose they'll make a big difference from the group game as well. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. One thing, Kevin, is that I do think of all the teams that are the most dangerous. I don't like using the word animal. It's a terrible way of putting it, but you know what I mean. People say it like the most dangerous animal, but the most dangerous in a knockout championship are probably St. Mullins in
Mm,
terms of you know getting to a semi final, and they really do have that mentality of well, no matter what happened prior to this, this is knockout championship, and this is where it starts. This is where it matters. So I think there'll be a very different, team, in terms. I don't mean team, but personnel wise. But I mean in terms of maybe what they bring to the game on Sunday. Um, right. Well, I suppose they're key matchups. I mean, again, James Dial. If James is available, James probably at centre forward, and David English will be if that's where they decide to go. If that's where James is there and playing, I think that'll be a big battle. I think David, in fairness, the last day against St. Mullins, was able to hurl a lot of ball, and he's hurled a lot of ball this championship. And I think if James Lyle is there, it'll maybe give the heart of our defence and David and whoever is dropping back there in front of him, it'll give him a lot to do. Do you know what I mean? And it'll probably put David maybe on the turn rather than coming forward, which is obviously such a brilliant player to do. So that'll be a big, a big battle there, in terms of who gets on top maybe there. I think on the flip side, we'll go down through a few more battles. I suppose Paddy Boland is another one. But maybe from St. Mullins, we'll flip it back and forth, and you'll have a few as well, I'm sure. Paddy Boland, as we saw that day, was just phenomenal against Bagenstown. Caught a few great balls as well in against what do you call it, against Mullins Rangers at the weekend as well. So good in the air. Scored a goal against us in that group game as well. 8 points in play against Bagenstown. I think he might have got a point or two against Mullins Rangers as well. So he's a very on form forward at the minute, and he gives them a great platform in the air as well. Now, Owen Kavanagh picked him up the last day when he was playing in the half forward line against us. But he has played in the inside line as well, to mix it up. Conor Keogh's played in there as well. So their positioning will be interesting as well. And from our point of view, then, what way will we match up? I can't see Ballinkillen changing. I can't see us. I don't think we'll go man to man in terms of our pickups. I think wherever the lads play, if you get me, from a St. Mullins point of view, I think we'll pick them up. Conor Keogh was inside the last day. Started inside, and he. I think if Dion and Mihal in there are particularly Tigerish man markers, and I think if either Paddy Boland or Conor Keogh go in there, or even both of them, I think I think that won't be the end of the world for our full back line, in terms of that the lads are used to picking up, lads like that, if you get me. So
mhm.
I can't see Ballinkillen changing in terms of their setup. Our six backs have played as six, if you get me, in their positions
Mm.
for the year. So I can't see us going man to man. But it'll be interesting to see the effectiveness of the lads there. If St. Mullins have a full team as well, does Jack Kavanagh go to wing forward? He's played wing back, midfield, wing forward. They need probably to find a position for him, if you get me, in terms of
Yeah,
to really get him motoring again. I know that
it's
sounds
between
strange for
it's
Jack.
between 5 and 9, Joe. I think. I think any further up, while I know he
Yeah,
played a lot of hurling there too, I think he's at his best. You know, I remember one year he played wing back the whole year. I thought he's
yeah,
phenomenal there. And
yeah.
not too long ago, didn't he play wing back as well,
He's played for
from
the
memory?
county as well. I know. Look,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. It's just to make he's such a key man for them, and such a leader. He is really a leader, and you know an on form and fired up Jack Kavanagh is just is he really, we talk about the passion that St. Mullins bring, especially to their knockout hurling, and he really sets the tone for things. So he'll be an interesting position as well. I mean, I suppose then back, if you come back around, and if you kind of go back further from a Ballinkillen point of view, um, I think our midfield has been a great platform for us this year. I think Cormac Lummox and Kevin Kavanagh have really, really worked well together. been really solid, very dynamic. Good covering as well. Um, so it'll be again, will St Mullins look to kind of nullify us there, or probably our half forward line. Well, obviously probably Sean Murphy is probably key to a lot of things for us. He did a lot of damage in the first half against in the group game. Was a bit quieter now at the weekend against Bagdson Gales, but in the corresponding group game with St Mullins, he did a lot of damage. He got a lot of space and fairness in front of him, which I thought was unusual from the St Mullins point of view, that they didn't look to close, to tighten it up a little bit, because I suppose maybe there were Paddy Boland was kind of on the same side as Sean Murphy, so you had the kind of two go-to forwards were trying to keep space between them rather than one coming back to cover the other, sort of thing. There was a lot of space between them, but I think St Mullins will look to close the space in front of him, because he is our one of our go-to men for our puckouts. Who will pick him up there? I wouldn't be surprised if I always get the Welsh's mixed up. I think it's Patrick. I always get them mixed up.
Michael.
Michael.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
I always get them mixed up, and they're all the Welsh are great chaps, but he could be the man to go on him. Maybe from a physical point of view. See, it's hard to know. I mean, look, he's so quick when he gets the ball in his hand to turn and go. There's probably very few, if any, defenders in the county able to kind of stick with him in terms of that raw pace off the burst.
I'd probably go with that route, Joe, because he picked up TJ Reid in Leinster final and did a very good job on him from memory. 3 years ago, and
he's a fine defender. Like, I mean, he's robust as well. He's
hardy,
he's really strong. Yeah. Oh God,
yeah.
And he does the simple thing. Gets the ball down. A little hand pass. Good. He's very intelligent with the ball. I've often said it's probably so underrated. In all their victories over the last number of years, he really does. He's after doing a lot of jobs, so he might switch across there. If Paddy is available and around and all, he'll probably, does he then come back into six? Does he stay in midfield? That's an interesting one as well. I suppose inside then we've, not saying that like we Paddy Captain's after starting to come a little bit for us there in the half forward line as well. He's got, he's picked off a couple of scores, got a goal as well. Inside, probably Jack Tracy is probably one that St Mullins will probably earmark in terms of we have that pace inside.
Big goal threat.
Big goal threat, yeah, big goal threat. So and probably won't be breaking any secrets there. Jack has started all the games, and I imagine he'll be starting for the semi-final as well. So who picks up him? Like, does Cathal Connolly maybe pick him up? You've John Doran, Cathal Connolly in there. Would Cathal be probably the better man in terms of maybe that little bit quicker, a little bit of youth side if there's space in front of him. So there'll be matchups to be got in there. You have Paul Dyle back on the edge of that square, makes them a very solid outfit. Is he an option? Maybe depending if Sean, like, I don't think he'll come out of the full back line, but I think if we decide to put Sean Murphy in on the edge of the square, I think he probably is a natural. He's a natural fit for him in terms of as a hurler. So,
has pace as well.
Has pace, absolutely. Has pace as well. He's probably, in fairness to him, over the last couple of years, I think lockdown was brilliant for him in some ways. He was telling me about how he used the time to to work on himself, and he was already an incredible hurler. And I think what you said there, he's even added that further quickness to him. So he's a massive addition back there. So solid, and Kevin Keogh there as well. I mean, has been in really good form as well. So they make a great union at the back line there.
Paul in particular, in fairness to him, has had a pretty good career because he was a bit of a late bloomer due to knee injuries. Like, he had a hard time of it growing up, and thankfully he's got a pretty good run over the last couple of years. It mightn't have looked likely that he was going to have a decent senior career just because of the injuries and all. And he did work hard, but when you get to know the man, you'll understand how and why he has made it, and why he's he's playing at that level for so long, and why he's in such good shape, because he's good on a steady lad, works hard.
He is,
you know what I mean? Does all the right things on a day-to-day basis, and do that day in, day out, and you become pretty consistent and pretty good, and it's hard for anyone to take that away from you or get the better of you. So
Yeah, I think
fair play to him.
yeah, fair play to him. Just I suppose another lad, one or two other lads there. Sorry, I'm thinking of there. I think Jason O'Neill is starting to. I think Jason O'Neill is got a lad that's going to have a little bit to play in this game as well. He looks lively on the ball. He's good out man. He's quick. So I suppose it's hard to mention everyone. Look, it's like
Mm,
in every match, some lad could come out of the blue, or
mm.
it's every battle is a key battle in the semi final because of that. But I think yeah, from a kind of a game point of view, I think Sam Mullins will definitely be looking to clamp down on the influence that Sean has in the game, Sean Murphy has in the game. I think from our puck out point of view, the last day, he was a big target, and he got the ball, won a few frees, popped over a few points, gave us a big platform. And I think when he's playing well, he's very good. I suppose one player I did leave out from our side as well, and we know how key he is to us, is Kieran Whelan.
Yep.
Um, you
I
know,
was actually just going to mention him, and free taking along with it. Like I know
yeah,
he's
yeah,
serious in play too, but like it
yeah,
literally could come down to that because you can see there is good strong runners on both sides. Like, and if
yeah,
lads start fouling, that's the winning and losing of it because Kieran
yeah.
Whelan is exceptional.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
he probably wasn't the last day now against St. Mullins. The wind was all, or sorry, against Bagginson else. The wind was all over the place, and it was difficult for free takers. And he wasn't as I won't say his conversion rates weren't
mm.
as good as they were, but he is an excellent free taker. And
Do you know what he is, Joe, as
I
well? To add to it, sorry to cut across you.
all right.
Big game player,
Oh
big
yeah, no,
game
he is,
player.
and I tell you, he has. I suppose what he has, look, is he has that intelligence. Like we've seen it, he set up the goal. Or sorry, for against Bangson, or sorry against St Mullins as well. The last day, his influence, against Nate Breed, his influence in terms of setting up goals, taking goals. Like he is a kind of a key maker or a playmaker for us. He's a key player. He's a kind of a he does the right things. He can drift wherever he wants to. You know what I mean? I think who picks him up then from a St Mullins point of view. The man Markham, it'll be interesting to see where we deploy him in terms of giving him that free reign. I think that's for us. He probably needs that free reign. To be on the ball. He's sort of player for us that we need him on the ball. We need him in the game, and I think he needs to be given that license to kind of to go forward as well. So yeah, to be look, it's going to be. I can't see St Mullins letting us off to that big lead, that we got the last day, and kind of, I can't see that happening again. I can't see either team. I think it'll be a very close game. Again, I just think St Mullins are definitely a different team come knockout championship hurling, and they're kind of seasoned for that, and their mentality is whatever's gone on before the 5 games is only to get here, and the next this one, and this one and the next one for them. That's the way they're thinking. Their mentality is this is what it's all about. The year comes down to, and if there's another one for them, sort of thing. But this is their time, if you get me. Um, for us, I think the confidence that we have coming in from the 4 wins out of 5. The passages of hurling that we played in certain matches have been excellent. And I think it's just about maybe extending that kind of dominance or that period of good hurling for a little bit longer. The group game was, probably that first half hour hurling was probably the best we've hurled in. Well, it has to be up there with the best half of hurling that we've hurled in the last dozen years or more. Do you know what I mean? In terms of not only the scores or whatever, but not even the scores, but I suppose just how we hurled and on our play and our dominance. But on the flip side, then the second half, then while St Mullins didn't hit as heavy on the score, and we kind of kept them at arm's length, they turned a fierce lot of ball on us, and that would be a little bit of a worry for us and hope for them. So I think it'll be a very, very, very close game. Obviously, I'm I'm in one camp, so it's very hard. It's very hard for me to. It's very hard for me to go past Ballinkillen. I do think for us to win, I'll put a caveat in it. For us to win, I think we need to bring what we brought that day against them. we probably weren't at our best last weekend, and whether that maybe was with one eye on next weekend, um, knowing that we're in semi-final, knowing that we were kind of not going to be caught for to play, that we were going to be playing St. Mullins nearly, barring we collapsed altogether. So I give the lads the kind of the benefit of doubt there, and I think we will just about edge it at the weekend, yeah.
Hmm. I think Sam Mullins will win that one, but I'd honestly love not more to see a Ballinkill and Bangstown final. I think that would be absolutely
Yeah,
unbelievable to see in Cara hurling. Um, and that's something we might have possibly thought about at the start of the year, but it's not beyond the bounds of possibility. It's unlikely, but it's not beyond the bounds of possibility this weekend. So the junior hurling final, Joe, that'll kick things off this weekend on Friday night.
yep,
I know the intermediate semi-finals, as we said, will take place this weekend as well. You're out in the intermediate championship tomorrow night, I think, yeah, against Bindstown. And that kind of will determine our parents for the weekend upcoming. Is that the simplest way of putting it?
yeah. There's one game to be played in it. It's an outstanding game. It's actually meant to be. I think it was meant to be the first game of the championship. It was actually. We're meant to play Bagginstown in that. So, um, while I suppose it doesn't mean we are out of the championship and Bagginstown are qualified for semi final, but I suppose we're from a Ballinkill point of view, we want to play it out to kind of keep the integrity of the competition and give our
Mm,
intermediate players as well, I suppose, another game to finish out the championship, and to I suppose hopefully Bagginstown will get something out of it too. But look, probably Bagginstown are already qualified for the semi final. If they do get a win over us, I think it'll mean that they will leapfrog St. Mullins in terms of the placings there. So that will then kind of determine the positions for the semi-finals after that. So, but yeah, that game will be played on Tuesday night. And I think the semi-finals are going ahead then on at the weekend.
hmm yeah, back to this junior final then, Joe. And Burn Rangers back in another one. They're going to take on St. Mullins in that at 7:30 in Netwatch Cullen Park on Friday evening. It goes as I was saying, I'll show no bias in this whatsoever, and I will make an apology to St. Mullins people, but it's with good intent that I just really hope Burn Rangers win this because I just want another team up in a higher grade and get them into senior then as well as quick as possible. But they can only get there as quick as they deserve to be there, and they know that themselves.
Hmm.
Knowing the lads down there, they won't want it. They won't have it any other way. You know. Do you think this is their time?
Uh, I don't know. I think it's from looking at this St. Mullins outfit, they had a big win in the semi final. They've a lot of experience there, in their team. I suppose some our Burn Rangers have a little bit more youth than that, but St. Mullins bring a big, they're a high scoring team as well. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I hope, like I said, from again, I'm not anti St. Mullins at all. They're a fantastic club, fielding three teams in three county semi-finals. Chances to win all championships. So I mean, nothing against them. I suppose from a hurling point of view, you'd like maybe to see Burn Rangers coming through and win it, like you said. But um, I don't know. I think St. Mullins might have that little bit of experience to get over the line in this one. Um, but I do hope on the other side, when you mentioned about going up and playing and so on, I mean, maybe next year it might be looked at that, you know, without them winning the championship, that maybe from a hurling point of view, if Burn Rangers were willing to go up to intermediate level, um, and I think they will have the players to compete, and it's a good standard of hurling, and it's a good learning ground for lads and so on as well. That maybe they might apply or make an application, or the county board might maybe have a chat with them about maybe moving up themselves voluntarily up to intermediate level, and kind of playing at that standard, and raising the and naturally you rise to that standard anyway. So for them to be progressive and to be from a county point of view as well, to be selfish from a county point of view, I think it might be a good move. But look, I suppose that they'd rather obviously win at the weekend and go up that way. But I'm just going to give a little nod to St. Mullins in this one. But I think it'll be a good game. But I think maybe just their fire and power might get them over the line in this one.
All right. Shout out as well to the under 16 county Camogie team. They lost out to Leash 2-11 to 2-7 in the end, or 2-5 to 5 points down at half time. I know there's a lot of good work gone in there as well. So hard luck and keep her lit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I suppose when I was talking about Killarney earlier, it was probably remiss of me not to mention the All Ireland football final, which we had yesterday, which is an absolute cracker. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think the absolute excellence and ability of Shane Walsh and of David Clifford, and to be honest, while like did Killian McDay get enough credit for what he was after doing? He was superb.
Mm.
4 points from
Yeah.
play, midfield, All Ireland final. The most admirable one of those, in my opinion, was his fourth because he'd been absolutely clobbered a couple of
Yeah.
minutes beforehand, and he tore it through and kicked another one. I thought he was fantastic. I thought the game itself was really good. What did you make of it?
Yeah, that was a brilliant game. Actually, delighted. That was fun. You have you kind of two teams that want to play football in some ways too. You know that they're very positive. I know they've kind of moved with the times in terms of defensively and so on. But in fairness, you have two teams that want to go out and put up a score and trying to win. Um, Again, I'm going to go on my hobby horse again, lad. You talked about Shane Welsh. You talked about David Clifford. I think right between them they scored whatever was it 18 or 17 points. The kick maybe out at like Shane Walsh, Colin or McStay was on about Clifford, and he was nearly falling over himself about Clifford kicking scores off his left foot. Shane Walsh was kicking scores in an All
Hmm.
Ireland off his left freeze in an All Ireland final off his left
Yeah,
foot, but
yeah,
he's a right footed player. You know what I mean?
yeah.
He kicks the 45s off the ground with his right.
Mm,
Unbelievable. And first Clifford kicked one or two with his right as well. I keep saying it, lads. Even at adult level, like what makes these players brilliant? You know, lads were looking and showing the clip of him soloing with his left and coming onto his right and kicking with his right. It's the skills of the game. Do you know what I mean? You can have a lot of, you can have so much of all the other things and tactically set up and everything. But if you have technically brilliant players like those two lads, they light
mm,
up the game and they're game changers. I mean, if Shane Welch isn't able to turn or Clifford isn't able to turn on his weaker foot and kick those points, he turns around, he recycles it, maybe the chance is gone. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, just highlighting those two lads, I just think their skills should be highlighted. We talk
Mm,
an awful lot about tactics and tech and all the other stuff.
yeah.
Look at their skill level; it was just phenomenal, and they're a joy to watch. Like look how positive they were in a modern game as well in terms of. But I thought it was a very good final. Apart from that, so many good battles. Really enjoyable. All Ireland final. Um, I suppose one point that was raised, I noticed on Twitter as well, was about the president of GA talking about, the clubs now going back at it. Like I don't know whether, and I saw it on Twitter a few times. Like, do the lads realise like that? In most counties for the last couple of months, the club scene has been ongoing. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I don't know like where they think the club scene hasn't been ongoing. Do we all have to wait for the All Ireland finals to be over before we can get
yeah.
going our club scene? But anyway, look, I suppose that's only a small point. But I thought it was kind of I thought when the president said it twice, I think I just thought it was a bit stupid because like there's life outside those other counties. There's a very vibrant club scene in all the other counties that have been knocked out months ago, or maybe
Mm,
playing different competitions. So yeah,
yeah.
so look, it was good. And by the way, it was good to see that having a good final, and also the Talton Cup was an excellent final, an
It was,
excellent
yeah.
showpiece, an excellent competition as well. I thought, Kevin. I thought it was very well respected. I thought the crowds were good. I think all the counties respected in terms of the players, stayed true and stayed with their panels, and and it was followed through on. So I think that was very positive, and I think it was important that it was positive and that it was a good year for it. And I think flipping it back to a Carlow point of view, I think we got an awful lot of it. I think the lads got a lot of credit over it, but I think it was nice for them to finish the year, even though we lost to Westmeath, getting the win over Tip and putting on a big display in front of a good crowd against Westmeath, and kind of finishing the year on a little bit of a high gives them something really to go back in and get their teeth into for next year as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, agree with you about the ball skills as well. 100%. The game, all these buzzwords are out there, but it is basic ball skills. Like you even take Clifford's catching and fielding ability.
Yeah,
Such a
brilliant.
simple skill, and not many lads are able to go to the clouds and pluck a ball anymore. That's just
Yeah,
we kind of are unfortunately in a stage where by flooding out defenses and all, occasionally we're not really seeing, you know, you still see basic ball skills, but it'll end up being lateral passing. It was nice yesterday to see just that little bit of old school element. And I'm not naive in thinking there was no fucking tactics or anything yesterday. Don't get me wrong. I'm fully aware of what was going on, and the kick-out strategies were in full flow. And even when you see the wing back trying to get back in front of Clifford and a wing forward getting back to where he is to offer that bit of support and all, that's not lost on us either. Like, yeah, don't get me
No,
wrong.
no, no,
But,
no.
but the actual, you're spot on, the basic ball skills, the ability to, a kick pass, a hand pass, a catch, sounds so simple and so juvenile, but it's unbelievable. It's the win and losing every match, lads, if you don't
Well,
get it right.
it is like, I mean, that's exactly it. Like, I mean, you look at Shane Walsh's scores, like they were just phenomenal. Like,
Mm,
well, Clifford hit a few lovely scores as well, but I think Walsh's in particular, the level of difficulty. The couple was in
mm,
the first half. He coming in on his right foot. Kick coming in from the stand side, just absolutely curled it over, like absolute thing of beauty. And I think,
mm.
I keep saying it. I know I'm people are sick to me, sick as you're sick of hearing it as well. But like
No,
that's what makes the lads can talk about whatever else. If you like keep saying it, if Gerald Hegarty misses the pick up in the All Ireland final going at 100 miles an hour, that's just a ball that's clear down the field, nothing stopped it. You know what I mean? It's something that's offered up. So while you need all the other tactical stuff and everything else, having those highly technically skilled players makes a difference. And I do think it makes a difference, from a football point of view. You probably put Shane Walsh into a Mayo to have an All Ireland title. Do you know what I mean? I know it's been very harsh, you know, but like that can be the difference. That kind of bit of class. So, but it was great. It was a great spectacle to end the year. I have to say, brilliant spectacle. Yeah.
Joe, thanks a million. Pleasure as always. Really enjoyed your company this evening, and looking
Thank you.
forward to the semi-finals. And we'll be back next week to review them. So have a good evening.
Hopefully,
Thanks a million. Go on,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no. Hopefully, Steve will be back from where is
Yeah.
he? Is he in Abu Dhabi or where did he say
I
from?
just, I don't know. Maybe it's a Globetrot. He could be Interrail, and I don't know now. But
He's
yeah, wherever he is, he's
the
in some expensive spot. He's there with Nagel anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I'd say so. RHS. There's probably some that getting the ear bent off, and now it's about Nave Breed's junior team now as we
That's
speak.
it. If he doesn't bring it back and
Yeah.
stick a rock, he'll be in trouble.
Oh,
Joe, thanks.
sound Kev. Take care,
Mind
man. Bye
yourself.
bye.
Yeah, there we go. Just a word to our sponsors again. Cork and Precast, thanks. Stevie Recovery, Craig Carney Web Design, Balloons and Sweet Treats, Brendan Cabinet Furniture, and Breach Nolan Physiotherapy. Thanks to everyone for tuning in this evening. We'll have this up on Spotify very, very shortly indeed. Just to mention as well, if you are enjoying our championship coverage, we do have a Buy Me Coffee link underneath this stream. It's not compulsory, but if you are enjoying the coverage and you do appreciate the effort that's gone into it, you can support us, of course, for the price of a coffee. That's where we leave. We're back again next week reviewing the semi-finals and looking ahead to the final. Take care.